Hello, everyone. I am Jasmine Guillory, and pleased to welcome you to this year's Brooklyn Book Festival. I am talking to the authors of Blackout, this delightful book. Dhonielle Clayton, Tiffany Jackson, Nic Stone, Angie Thomas, and Ashley Woodfolk. Nicola Yoon unfortunately could not be with us today, but we will have her with us in spirit. So there's so much to talk about with this book. I'm just going to jump right in. First of all, let's talk about the origin story of the book, because I love everything about all of you deciding to do this in the midst of the pandemic. Dhonielle, I believe this was your idea. You start us off.
Yes, but they're going to slander me. So let me set the record straight so that we can, you know what I mean? I can tell my story. Okay. So before they call me a bully, I had a big idea. Okay. My niece Riley is 15 years old and we watch all of the young adult TV shows and films, and we critique them and talk about them. And she asked me a question. She said, why don't the Black girls get big love stories in these? You know, there's so few and far between. And I looked at her and I said, oh my God, I don't know why. And so
you do know why.
I know why. And I couldn't explain. I was like, there's racism and all that. She's like, I know that, but come on, there's so many of these TV shows and films. But why though? There's a sidekick. And I was like, okay, all right. Then the pandemic started and I was like, oh my gosh. And she's stressed out and everyone's stressed out and the world felt like it was pausing, and I'm living in New York City. And I thought, wow, it feels like we've all blacked out. Nothing is the same. We can't see what's happening all around us. And it was really depressing. All of my projects stalled because all of my editors were furloughed. And I called all of my favorite people who are on this call. And I said, hello, I want to do something very special. I was talking to my niece about, why don't Black girls get big love stories? And why isn't that celebrated? And I said, we should do this thing together because we're all depressed and everything sucks. So let's have a little love in the world. And they all said yes, which was great. And then we got busy and we got to work. See?
Okay, so I'm going to interrupt so that other people can chime in because they all said yes. Seems like a real easy way of making this happen.
It's the truth.
How did you manage to get all of these people to do this book?
She just told us that we were doing the book.
Correct.
That is
we're doing this. So this is what we're going to do is what I got.
Yeah.
So this is what we're going to do.
Angie, I didn't do that.
Yes, you did.
Tiffany, you have to come to my aid.
I think because I was probably a little confused because she's like, we're going to do this project. And I was like, well, I don't know how. And the way she pitched it was interconnected story, like a Love Actually and Valentine's Day and those type of stories. And all I could see is they all had to be connected. Our characters need to show up in different stories. So I was kind of like, well, that's the only way I could see it happening. That just made a little bit more work for us instead of just a couple of stories. We strung them together. And to me, I felt like it was a really one of the best group projects because we all were, we're all smart enough and dedicated enough to pull it off. So yes, to come to her aid here, it was worth doing. It was worth being bullied into this project. Yes.
Right. So she's not saying you didn't bully us. She's just saying it worked out. That's all that is.
The slander, Jasmine. Slander here.
Okay, I want to talk logistics because I find it fascinating talking about writers working together because so much of what we do is solitary, and especially logistics in the midst of a pandemic. Because as I was reading this book, you talked about the interconnected stories, and all I could think about was a big whiteboard somewhere with lines drawn everywhere, except you were all in your different homes. How did you all make it happen? And especially in a relatively short period of time. Was there more bullying involved?
No, Ashley Woodfolk. I'm gonna throw her under the bus. Loves a good Google Doc.
I do love a good Google Doc. So I sort of So what happened was we all were talking about, what we were going to do for our stories. We were all writing our stories separately. Tiffany decided that she was going to break her story up and into scenes, basically. And that became the backbone for the story. So once we decided for the novel, so once we decided that Tiffany's story was going to sort of create the framework for how the book was going to be structured, I love a book with a complicated structure. Like if you've ever read any of my other novels, they're all over the place. So I love playing around with that kind of stuff. So yes, I created this like monstrous Google Doc that had, Tiffany's pieces and then all the different neighborhoods that as Tiffany's characters are taking their long walk through Manhattan, you bump into the other characters based on like the neighborhoods that you were in. So we did that. And then I think me, Dhonielle, and Tiffany got on a call and talked about like light. So like when it would be getting dark, what time it needed to, like what time of day it needed to be, whose stories would be when it was still light out and whose stories would be happening in the dark, and whose stories it didn't really matter for, like Nic's, because she's in the subway. So they're underground, so it didn't really matter. So hers was more flexible as far as like where it could go. So yeah, like we made our Google Doc, we wrote our stories, and then we sort of like pieced it together.
We had to help our Southerners out. Our
Yes.
Nic and our Angie.
Yeah. I mean, look, I feel like I'm killing the magic here, but like the interconnecting part wasn't that complicated. Like I feel like people ask us all the time, like, how did you make? I'm like, well, I decided that my character was Tiffany's character's brother and that we were related to Angie's, whose dad, like their dad's driving the bus. Like we just
Yeah, but just you saying that right there, that's complicated.
No, but I'm just saying, like, it was at the end where we were like, okay, now let's make sure these characters are connected. And it didn't take, it's not something that took a long time either. Like, it was just like, okay, my character's basketball teammate is Dhonielle's character. Knock that out. My son, this guy is this kid's brother and this kid's son. Knock that out. Like, it was just this. And it, once you make one connection in one story, it appears in the other one, right? Like, yeah. So then we just cleaned it up.
And how long did it all take? Like you, Dhonielle, you had the idea shortly after the pandemic started, but this book came out in June, right?
Yes, it came out in June.
That's pretty fast. Like, how did you manage that? And how long did it take for the writing happen in the midst of?
That's the fun part, is that I think I called everyone in the spring when the pandemic just started and said, we're going to do this thing. And then we all wrote and everyone sent in their stuff in like June, July time, because we were all on the struggle bus, yeah. Right? And we needed something like to do outside of our projects, which felt like really scary dealing with, the pandemic. We wrote it before it went out. So we put it all together.
Oh, wow. Really?
Wrote it. We didn't do this on spec. We wrote the whole thing so we could say, this is the love story. This is the novel. This is what we're doing together. This is our Captain Planet of why I am dating myself. But you know what I mean? Like, yeah, that's what we did. And then we went out as it was a whole thing.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah. And then we edited it. And Rosemary Brosnan, our editor, like raked us over the coals with every nitpick of like everything. Well, it's not actually, there's still sun. The sun would be coming from the west and it would hit the window and we would be able to see below. And I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
It doesn't matter.
But I will say it was easier to revise than a whole book because we're really only focusing on our section, our story, beginning to end of that story. And those characters and their development. And, when you look at the length of the stories, it's like, compared to the long books I write, especially, it was easy. Mm-hmm. It was easy. So yeah, it was probably the best group project I've ever been a part of. Like the best one. Absolutely.
Look, if I can spend the rest of my life writing a sixth of a novel, I'm totally fine with that.
So some of you have had experience writing romance before. some of you aren't the romance people as much. How was that for you, who tend to write books that are a little different than your typical romance?
Tiffany
Angie
Jackson.
I know, right, Tiffany?
I'm talking to you, Tiffany.
I felt that in my spirit. I'm like, right. I'm the awkward girl at the party.
You didn't get to kill anybody.
Yeah.
It was, and that's why I was kind of like, when, Dhonielle was like, we're doing this, I was like, we.
Have you read my books or?
So, which is probably why I had to change the format and had to do all these extra things to make it a bit more thrilling and just draw some tension in there, because sometimes I read the tension that you typically read, because I read a lot of romance. People don't really believe that because my stuff is so dark, but on my off time, I'm reading all the crazy romances that we're talking about on TikTok as well too. So I know the formula. It was just, I never expected myself to write it, and so there were days where I was like, how do I make this scene between them? Like, what is that chemistry? How do you do that? How do you do that? So there were moments where I was just kind of like, this is awkward for me, but I also love a creative challenge. And I also love the fact that everyone was so into it. And I agree that, I didn't have a lot of these type of stories growing up. I especially didn't have any type of stories like this set in New York, because I'm from here. And so to see kind of like myself on the page as like, a young New Yorker, like in love, rather than, all the like hard knock life stories like I've seen all my life, that was actually really invigorating. And so I felt like, I could do this. I can like, I could toughen it out and stuff like that. But I did try to, have like an elevator fall, or, just I was trying, and everyone kept saying nope. And I kept like throwing out ideas like, okay, wait, so hear me out right here.
Can there be a
What?
rat?
Where were the rats? That was the main one.
I
We were like,
felt
Tiffany, can we not do rats?
I was rejected, but it's fine. It's fine. I still love the book as it is.
It's hard to write romance, Jasmine. Like, what you do is like, hats off to you. It is really hard in the romance streets, okay? Creating tension, creating like the longing and all of that. I had to work really hard, and I love watching romantic comedies and romances. I read romance, but it is hard to do. So I was struggling. It took me a while to crack my chapter, to really make it, the tension between the characters work. I'm not a natural at it, as some reviewers.
Well, honestly, I find writing short romance really hard. People have asked me to like do anthologies and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how to write short. I don't know how to do it. So hats off to all of you for being.
That's because you're like the queen of the slow burn.
Yes.
Like.
Yes.
You need that insta love sometimes in the shorter format. You got to pull it out real quick.
Yeah.
It requires so much hope. Like we had like that. Honestly, that was the most challenging thing for me, was like, it was the best and worst part of working on this story, because I had to mine hope in order to write a hopeful story. But like, things weren't very hopeful, we're stuck in the house. Yeah, I don't do well stuck in the house. Yeah, I'm literally in my car right now. Like, I am recording a Zoom panel from my car because I don't like being in the house. Like, I just left my tumbling class. Like, being stuck, and then it's just like nobody knew when anything was going to end. And, I'm also entrenched in constantly talking about race and racism, because all of the stuff that was going on with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor, and like Angie knows exactly what I'm talking about. The number of people who were tapping us on the shoulder, like, well, how do we fix racism? Bro, if I knew how to fix racism, it would be fixed, right? So if you think about trying to figure out how to find a hopeful place from which to write a romantic story, but once I found it, I was so happy I did, because it's like, oh, there is light. I just need to write about people kissing. Nikki's been trying to tell us this forever.
She really has.
It's taken us a while to listen.
Nicola Yoon knew exactly what she was doing.
Yeah,
She started her story. She was like, I'm
Nicola
done.
Yoon was like, oh, do you want that tomorrow or
Easy peasy.
It was
literally
so
her only notes were like, there needs to be more kissing.
Yes.
Literally, I was like, yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Whatever you say, because you are in charge. And that's it.
Exactly.
Yes, ma'am.
funny.
Okay, and we talked a little bit about this, about sort of the origin story for the book and why you wanted it out in the world. But what, for each of you, I think, what was the most important thing for you about doing it? Like, why did you say, yes, I want to do this, other than the bullying?
I mean, did I say yes for any reason other than the bullying? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like what I touched upon a little bit is, I'd never seen, New York kids falling in love, like it's particularly Black kids. So that was one of my other reasons. And, the opportunity to work with, my friends, these lovely, talented ladies, and knowing what this will represent overall, like historically and industry wide. I want to be able to like be a part of that legacy. So yeah, that was a huge part of it as well too, is just to be able to say like, hey, we did this groundbreaking thing that, can never be repeated, can never be duplicated the way like a lot of people will try, and it just will never actually happen that way. So I think I wanted to be sort of, a part of that rather than be on the outside, because I can't write romance. I'll figure it out.
And then some of you were writing this from New York, were writing this in New York. Some of you are not. What was it like for those of you who are not New Yorkers writing this book kind of set very much in New York City?
Go ahead, Angela.
I think it was easier for me than Nick, because I was writing about people who aren't from New York. They're from Mississippi. So I know that perspective of going to New York and being in that city for the first time and seeing everything that you've seen on TV, but in person. I know that experience. I'm so glad that Dhonielle didn't tell me to write a New Yorker, because it would have been a hot mess. I cannot do that. I don't know. I got on the subway one time my whole life and I was like, ooh, this is dirty, and I ain't doing it again. No offense. So like, I couldn't do it. I only recently figured out the grid in Manhattan and how to figure out which street and this. I just recently figured that out. So, thankfully, we have several New Yorkers who helped with this, who were writing this book, and they helped me out. They gave me all the lessons that I needed. But again, I'm so glad they were not like, write a New Yorker, because I would have been like, yo, son, and that's it. Like, I can't do that. That's not me. So
you did a good job. You did a good job.
I will write your Southern kids, but do not ask me to write New York kids.
That's why
like, they take the subway by themselves. Wait a minute.
I know.
What?
That's why I gave you the.
Who let them do that?
They get to do that? They get to go from one borough to the other by themselves? What?
Yeah, I know.
Please,
and
no.
And that's why Nick got the subway. We thought if we gave you a container that didn't require a lot of New York stuff, only a few things that you've seen, you would be straight.
And I do be on the subway. Like when I do go to New York, I'm like, I love the subway. I love riding the subway. I know that makes me very strange, but the people watching is magic, right? So as a person who is still very much enamored with the subway, it was a perfect setting for me to have to write in.
And
well, I mean, also the like walking through the subway parts of it, I found totally fascinating. Did you have to do research on that? Or
oh man, when I tell you, it took me literally like a month and a half to even figure out how you would get off of a subway train if it got stopped in a tunnel, because there's all of these different, like, it's just the Long Island Expressway, I can get off no problem, right? Because like those instructions are right there on the internet. But with like just regular subway trains, it was like, is the panel above the door? Is it on the side? Like it just, I had to, it took a lot of research.
And I told
the
Nic,
most research I really had to do. And I remember Ashley being like, you could have just asked me. And I was like,
Yeah, I know.
like, do you know how anxious I am? Like, do you understand?
and I was like, you know, you probably
I already
right.
know.
I
Ashley knows how to exit every subway car.
Every situation.
I can get out of
You know how to get out.
Which is wild because the subway was actually like almost every New Yorker's like worst nightmare. Like I couldn't even imagine when when we were having blackouts here, like in real life, and people really were stuck in the subway. I was like, that is actually my worst nightmare realized. Like, absolutely not. I couldn't write that. That would actually be the nightmare.
And it's so real. And we felt like when I was planning this, what we wanted to showcase of the city, that is a real New York consideration, right? Our kids here ride the subway. It's how they get around. Teens are constantly on the subway. We had to have that, right? We had to have teens on bicycles, teens walking, right? Trying to get cabs, things like that. Like we knew we wanted to really make something that felt like it resonated to the teens that we see here all the time. And the ones that I was a teacher in New York City for a very long time, that I come in and out of my library and my classroom. So that informed a lot of the settings. There are a couple ones that we wanted to squeeze in that we couldn't get. Like I wanted a Central Park Zoo one, but we couldn't make it work. You know, I wanted to go to the Heights. We couldn't go farther north, you know, like, and the Bronx, like, I didn't want, you know, some of our friends from the Bronx, like Ceresia, to be mad, but, you know, we did our best to showcase New York.
What was your favorite part about working on this project? And then what was the hardest thing about doing it?
I will say the hardest thing, I sort of volunteered to like be like a wrangler for everyone. And so the hardest thing is to schedule anything, like, because everybody's so busy. It's the middle of a pandemic. Like people have kids, people have therapy, people have all these other projects that they're working on, all these other Zoom calls that they have. And so I mean, I know this isn't like part of the writing process, but like, I feel like scheduling anything with all six of us is so, I mean, even all six of us aren't here now. Like, it's so hard. And like, even, you know, last minute things happen all the time. And so, yeah, even when everybody's like, yeah, I can totally do that date. Like, I feel like something comes up so often.
It's like, oh, actually, especially during especially this past like year and a half, nobody knows what day it is. So
exactly,
something with someone to be like, oh, I'm sorry, I forgot that's a Thursday. I meant Wednesday.
Right. Like, what is time? Time is a lie.
Ashley was like wrangling cats, right? She would get 2 or 3 of the cats in the basket. Yeah. And then she's like going to get the other of us. And then like Angie's out of the basket. I'm out of the basket. She got to go get them again, put them back in. Like it was rough. She did a great job. But, you know, there are 6 of us. We are very busy ladies.
Everybody's so busy.
Right. But what's great, I think, has been just, they're all so brilliant that I've learned so much for my own writing from looking at what their story choices and their dialogue and like their plotting choices. So I feel like I've become a better writer by watching how they do what they do. So it's like a masterclass from just being in a book with someone else. And so that has been for me the most rewarding. The hardest part, of course, it's always going to be scheduling, I think. I'm glad that I don't have to do that, but that's Ashley. Maybe we, you know, like give her a reprieve, but like that is just the hardest part. But hopefully there's 6 of us. We can pitch hit, right? Someone can't come in. All right, I got you. You got me next time. Like we can all sort of help each other.
Someone else.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to say, I think part of the hardest part is one, for people to recognize that this is like a whole novel and not like an anthology, and sort of just like kind of shouting that through the roots that this is a co-written novel. And it's hard for people to grasp that concept. Like, no, you have different stories. No, we all work together. This is a whole ass novel. And then two, I think as Black women, and it's taken me like the whole summer to really like get to this point. The other hard part was people to subtract like their stereotypes from this novel, and just assuming that like this novel is going to have some sort of pain in it. And so of course we have to talk about racism. Of course we have to talk about all this other stuff when we literally were like, no, these are all love stories. So why is it that
point of the book?
The whole point of the book is that it's a love story, but every single interview we were in, everyone was like, so what are you going to do to fix racism?
We're like, or what about the boys, right? That was our first event together. We got a question about like, what about the boys? What about Black men?
What about Black men? When are you going to write about them?
We were like,
I was like, well, first of all, clearly you did it. Clearly you haven't read it, because there is definitely a story about Black boys.
Yeah.
And there are Black boys throughout the book, right? It's just like,
we were just like, please let us celebrate. Can we celebrate?
Also, like,
my face hurts.
When a bunch of Black men get together, do you ask them what about Black women? No, that's
never.
No, they do not. So like trying to grab hold of, you know, the reason why we did this, the joy, and like holding tight to that mission statement that we all did was hard, but also like so worthy of a mission. Like that made me even want to write even more, because I'm like, oh, you still don't get it. Like, and you're still gonna be completely disrespectful. So yeah, I'm even going to lean in further to be like, oh, did you read that story? What did you think about that kiss at the end? How'd you feel about that? So yeah, I was sort of being antagonizing towards the end. But with joy, with love. With love.
That's awesome. I mean, yes. What about Black boys? Right.
Yeah. And it's like, we love them. They're in the book.
Yeah.
That's what, like, Tiffany literally was like, we love them. They're in the book. If you read the book, right? Like, and we just want to be able to celebrate love. The love is the part of the, you know what I mean, is our activism. Mm-hmm. Let that be that. Let it speak for itself. You're always trying to make us put all of these big isms on our shoulders. And we really want to remind Black kids that they deserve a big love story. And that can be the drama of their lives, whether or not their crushes on them back, whether or not they get that kiss, whether or not they like feel the butterflies. That is enough, right? That is enough. So we have had quite a few adventures together during interviews.
But next time somebody asks us that, I'm gonna just be like, I make them. Next question.
You do. You have two of them.
I literally like grow them inside my body. I think we're all right.
Yeah. We're done. We're done with that. Next.
We're good.
Move on.
Exactly.
And so Ashley. Ashley's made her one too.
Yeah. So I want to talk about craft a little bit, because I know that for me at least, I had to kind of change the way I wrote during the pandemic, because the things I did before were not working. Did that happen for you guys, and did it happen as you wrote this book? Especially like writing together, what was your craft process like? Like, did you sort of do it the way you've done other things, or did you have to kind of pivot a little bit?
I don't know about y'all, everything's chaos. Like as soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, oh, it's over, like chaos. Everything's just chaotic. I can't write every day. I wish I could. Lots of bursts, right? Bursts of energy. And then it's like, oh my God, the world's ending, right? And then I'm like, okay, like, let me get back on the horse. So for me, and I need travel, which is a very privileged point of view, but I need to be able to go see my friends, to go to festivals, to travel, to see kids, to have my well replenished, to a reminder of like why I do what I do. And we didn't get any of that. There was no like energy exchange. So everything's flat and I'm exhausted. So I have struggled to write. But with this project, because I had 5 other women waiting on me, that was like, oh, I need to get it together, because I can't let the team down and I can't be out here like being the weakest link, right? Like So wasn't there a TV show that was like, you're the weakest link like that? I would hear that in my voice, like, don't be the weakest link, like get your shit together, like get it done. But when I'm by myself, I'm totally playing games. Like, I don't want to do this, like melting down. But like with writing with them, I'm like, oh, I need to get it together. Because I have other women that are going to eat off of this and want to put out something good. So I don't want to get cussed out. So, and I told everyone to do it. So I also couldn't.
Like, also, it was your idea. So
right.
We fully don't go into this.
Right.
This was my first time ever writing anything without an outline, and like first and last, because I haven't done it again. But it was like this, like we all, I think, kind of just crashed right into this, because we wanted to get the stories done. Just like Dhonielle said, I wasn't trying to be the weakest link. I don't think any of us was trying to be the weakest link. We're like, wait, did everybody get their stuff in? Because I need to make sure I don't want to be the last one, you know. But I just dove in, and it won't, I guarantee you it will never happen again, because it was such a specific experience, because we were in the pandemic. I went from writing in a tent in my backyard because my kids were home. I couldn't write in the house, even with a home office. Like, my son's room was upstairs and it was like elephants running around over my head all day. Like, didn't work. So I pitched a tent in the backyard, and then it got hot. So then it was just like, oh, and so I went and so I started going to write at a friend's house. But even all of that, I felt like I was writing on borrowed time. So it's just like, I got to get this done. It has to get done.
Yeah, it was the same for me. I have a toddler, and he, at the very beginning of the pandemic, I was like, okay, my husband's working his 9 to 5, like in the bedroom, basically. I have to like just deal with this child so he can like provide us with health insurance. And so I was like, I have to just like write whenever I can write, because I got to take care of this baby. And so, yeah, it was a lot of like writing during nap time, writing, you know, late at night, writing on the weekends when I would just like throw my baby at my husband and be like, this is your job now. I went to my parents' house a couple times, like panic calling my mom, like sobbing, being like, mommy, you have to come. Because I was like too afraid to go there, like on the train or something. My parents live in DC. And like, you know, at the height of the pandemic, I was like afraid to be around anyone. So I like panic called my parents, and I was like, can you guys come to New York and just get us? So they came, got us. We went back to DC, and I literally just like wrote like crazy for 2 weeks while I was down there with them, and like they had my baby. So yeah, it was a very unique experience. I feel like everything I wrote during the pandemic, I did also write in like these like sort of really intense bursts, and then like weeks of nothing. But it's like you kind of had to do what you had to do, right? Like, it was what it was.
Yeah, it's definitely a weird writing process during the pandemic, that's for sure. Okay, let's talk about what everybody wants to talk about. The Obamas.
Oh, yes.
Set the picture for me. Tell me how we all found out about that.
Oh, this is the best story of the entire.
All right. Yeah, I want to know.
This is the best story, because they should all be embarrassed. Okay. So our film agent, Mary, she was like, I need you to sit down. And I said, what do you mean sit down? She was like, sit down. I'm going to call you and tell you something. And I said, okay. She calls me and she tells me that Michelle and Barack Obama are going to be producing Blackout and that they love the book. And I was like, and she was like, now you get to call everyone. See ya, I've got to go to dinner. And I was like, what? I was like, oh, what? So then I text everyone and I said, I need everyone to lay down and then report back when they're horizontal in the bed, right? Like just laid out on the couch. So everyone did, but Angie was driving. So she's like, I can't. So she's driving. So I was like, oh no. So I tell everyone and then I call everyone. Nick was like, what? Excuse me? What did you say? What? And she made me repeat it 1,000 times. Ashley didn't pick up the phone, mind you. I had to call her over and over again. Nick had to call her. She didn't pick up, like literally till later. And then when I told her, she hung up on me. So she was just so stressed. Tiffany was
like, that's impossible. Done.
Exactly. Tiffany was just like, bitch, what? Are you serious? I can't tell my mother. Not until this is real. I need to know this is real. Like literally, her poor mother, my beloved Miss Linda.
Okay, but look, I have a mother too. And I know exactly what would happen if I told my mother that. Every single person she knows would know within 30 seconds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This was my cross to bear. I was like, I'm not telling anyone until I know for sure, because I still don't even believe you. You're telling me.
She didn't. She did not. And I said, you can call Mary. Like she did not believe.
I was like,
Angie,
that's fine.
Yes. And she didn't even tell her mom. So Angie was driving. And so I said, I'm calling you. I call her. I said, okay, I got to tell you something. You're like, what? And so I tell her, she starts.
And my mom was in the car.
Yes. Her mom starts screaming. She's screaming. She had to pull over. Like it toppled everything. It was like the greatest thing ever. Nicola was like, no. And you know, she's so soft-spoken. She was like, Doctor, are you serious? I said, I'm serious. She was like, no. Are you really serious? She was like, my heart can't take this. Like my knees, like my heart. Like I told my child and she fell out on the ground. Like, you can't take this. You can't take this. I said, I'm serious. She's like, I just can't. I can't believe it. And I was like, I can't either. I was sweating. Do you know? I was like red up my neck. Like, right, lady. Like seriously. I was so overwhelmed, but Angie was screaming so loud that one of our other friends was in the room. She was like, what happened? Somebody died. I hear Angie screaming, somebody died. I said, no. I had to tell her because she was like, Angie seems upset. I was like, she's not, she's so happy. I'm still sort of shocked. I'm still like, what? I'm going to need a sedative when we meet them.
Yeah.
Fully and truly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. This is like, so this is the story that Terry Jones tells of when she got the call from Oprah and she was also driving and she got like a call from an unknown number, which she answered and it was Oprah. And she was like, I gotta pull over.
Gotta pull over. I thought Angie was gonna crash her car.
Oprah pulled over.
I don't know what I would do. I told them not to do that to us, though. I said, please don't do any like Zoom pop-ups where we are not prepared.
No.
Because
where you have to put lipstick on to talk to the Obamas. Like you can't like just come to.
Exactly. I need to be cute. I need to be.
See, you're gonna be nervous though, so that lipstick is gonna be all like this.
Oh, it's gonna be all. I'm gonna have a Joker mouth.
Yeah,
looking like a clown, basically. But did I misrepresent anyone? Ashley's was the worst, where she just hung up the phone. Just like,
I didn't even know where my phone was, and then I pick up my phone, and there was like 150 text messages, like 18 missed calls, and I was like, "Oh my god, what the hell is happening?"
Like somebody died.
Yeah, I was like very scared, and so I called her back, or she called me back, I can't remember. Yeah, I was like, wait, no, and I just hung up.
She Peppa Pigged you so bad, like
I was just like, no,
so bad.
Yeah, so it was hilarious. But I mean, we're so excited. I just feel like having two people who have such a grand Black love story, bringing in, you know what I mean, ushering our love story, our Blackout, our novel to the small screen and the big screen at the same time is going to be extraordinary.
Amazing. Amazing.
We feel really good about it.
I think we're all still like, but wait, for real?
Yeah, I kind of still don't really believe it.
When they come on that Zoom or when we see them in person, oh my God, I'm going to need a muscle relaxer. I'm going to need something because I'm too excited.
Defibrillator.
Yeah.
Standby.
Because I also
have a doctor standing there. I mean, I'm sure doctors travel near the Obamas anyway, right? If it's in person, you'll be fine. Someone will be able to revive you.
Exactly. But it's going to be hard because we're all going to start crying. Nikki's going to start crying. then Angie will cry, and then
No,
it's
Ashley will cry first. Let's be honest.
Ashley,
Yeah,
yes,
Ashley
that's
will
true.
cry first.
Ashley starts it. It'll be like dominoes. Ashley, Nikki, Angie. Then it'll knock them all down. Tiffany's gonna try to stay strong, but she's not gonna make it. Not gonna make it.
Me and Tiffany gonna be looking at each other at the end like, "Don't do it, girl.
Don't do it. Hold it.
Don't do it, girl.
I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win. And then
We got this. We got this. Cancer power."
Soon as Angie goes, I'm gone.
Yeah.
So
Look, as soon as either of them say, "I loved your book,"
Shit, that's a wrap.
all done.
No,
We're done.
absolutely not.
absolutely not. Yeah, Ashley's eyes are gonna glaze.
I was gonna say,
I'm
like,
tearing
don't
up just thinking about them saying it to you.
I know.
Okay, so I can't.
I'm gonna be like, don't make eye contact with Tiffany.
I might just hang up on the Zoom.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wear shades on the Zoom.
I was gonna say, get some dark shades.
Yeah.
For blackout shades so that no one can see us.
Incredible. I love it. Okay, so we're getting to the end now. I want to ask, do you guys have advice for any young Black writers watching this who need some encouragement? You know, what's the best advice that you've gotten, or the best advice that you want to give out to people who want to write in sort of any kind of way?
Mine is be okay with writing badly. There's this, look, we all Black in this room. We all know what it feels like to be pressured to be exceptional at every point, all day, every day, nonstop. And that'll mess with you when you're trying to step into something creative. And so I like telling kids, like, let that first draft be a hot mess. Like, my first drafts aren't good. Why would yours be good? You know what I'm saying? Like, if people who write professionally don't write good first drafts, why would you be under the impression that you can nail it in one shot? Like, that's just not a thing that happens. So write and be okay with it not being Toni Morrison, you know?
Yes.
Because we're never gonna be Miss Toni, but
Ain't
that's
nobody gonna be Toni, right?
no. I would say read. Make sure that you're reading. Reading is so important and fundamental to becoming a writer. You're coming into community. And so when you're reading each other's books and you're reading your peers, you're celebrating them, you're also learning. And so I read I try to read as much as I can and as widely as I can. And it helps me be a better community member. It helps my writing. It helps me enter the community of writers. And so that I can connect. I can say, oh, I read your book. Oh, Tiffany D. Jackson's books destroy me, right? Like, I can always talk about that. And it helps us connect. And it also is a reminder that we are together in this.
I'm reading Dhonielle's middle grade right now.
Oh,
and I can say
no.
it's fantastic.
I'm literally reading Dhonielle's middle grade, Ashley's YA, and Tiffany's next YA, literally all at the same time. Like, my friends are bomb.
Yeah.
And I get little chunks of Angie's in my text messages.
I know, me too.
I'd be mad. I'd be like, yo, this when I get the whole thing though. Like, where?
When you're ready, I'm ready.
Well, and I also think that, you know, I think I thought this before I was like a professional writer, and I think a lot of other people think this. It's like sort of you only get to be a writer if you already have writer friends, right? Talking about like, oh, I'm reading all my friends' books. No, most of my writer friends are my friends because I read their books and I was like, I want to be friends with them. And then made that happen. But I think people sort of think that it happens the other way around. And like, I think we all are attracted to each other's writing and then manage to like become friends that way.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that can sort of hold people back because they think that you have to know someone. And no, we all just sort of found each other later.
Come into community.
Yeah. Look, I'll say this also about the Kidlit community. Me, Tiffany, Ashley, and Angie, we were all the same debut year. Like, that's how we met each other. We were like the 5 Black girls who were supposed to debut in 2017. And Tiffany, not Tiffany, Dhonielle and Nicola debuted together. They were the only Black girls in their debut year, right? So like, even coming into a space where you find the people who are doing the thing that you want to be doing. You can do it together. Look at me giving too much advice.
And it's not a competition. I think like that when you come into it, don't come in like, oh, this is a competition. I gotta blah blah blah. No, because that's the easiest way to isolate yourself. And this is an industry where you need as much support as you can get. Like, I'm so happy for every win that they get, and they're so happy for every win that I get, and it's genuine. So like, don't come in trying to compete from jump. I'd also say, actually write. You know how many people tell me they want to write books, and I'm like, oh, so when did you start? Have you started? No, and it goes back to what Nick was saying, like, they're afraid of writing badly. And it's like, but if you don't write at all, it's never going to get done. You got to write through the bad. You got to do it. So actually write. Like if I had $1 for every person who told me they want to write, but they've actually never just sat down and started writing, I could have Oprah money. Like, like for real. Come on, just write. Actually write. It's hard, but you gotta start. So start.
That's real. It's like I want to be a writer.
I'm
right.
Where the page is at?
Yeah.
Oh, I was thinking about it. Then get to it.
Yes, I've heard so many people say like, "Oh, I've always wanted to write a book." All right, well, what's stopping you? Go on now.
That's the big difference between us as published authors and someone who's saying, "I want to write a book." You just haven't sat down and actually written it.
Yep.
We did.
Exactly.
You gotta do it.
Before we go, oh wait, was there more advice?
Oh,
no,
I was gonna say like
tired people.
I was gonna say like don't be afraid of rejection. Because you only need one yes at every step of this process in order for something good to happen. Or I guess not good, but like in order for you to reach whatever your goal is, you only need one yes. You need one yes from an agent, you need one yes from an editor, you need like a couple of good reviews. You're gonna still get bad ones no matter how long you're in this industry, and you're gonna still get books that are rejected no matter how long you're in this industry. So I think it's important to like be relentless and like not be afraid of that rejection and just go after whatever it is you want.
Yeah, I want to piggyback off of Ashley. I always tell people rejection is not the redirection, the right direction. Like you don't want to be in the lane where someone actually is like rejecting you. You should always lean into the love that you are receiving and just sort of adopt this sort of what is the word, non-attachment lifestyle and having expectations of what you want it to look like, and actually like be present in the fact that you get to do something that's so amazing and creative and cool. Like everyone wants to be a writer, as we've been saying, but the idea of actually leaning into that and knowing that, there's no way that everyone is going to like you. It's actually physically impossible to happen. But if you lean into the love that you are receiving, you always attract more. So I feel like that's probably the biggest piece of advice. I guess that's even more life advice, regardless of what industry you're in, is to just kind of lean in towards love.
I think all of that is great advice. Before we go, I wanted to give everybody an opportunity to talk about the other projects that they have out this year, because I know a lot of you have other projects out this year. So why don't you guys all talk about all of the other stuff? Oh, and I should have said this before. You can buy Blackout and I think all the other books at the link below. I think it's below. Someone will point to it when this happens. Yeah. Tiffany, why don't you start?
Because you just had a book come out and I
Oh,
think it hit the New York Times bestseller list. I don't know. Yeah.
Yes. So my most recent project came out a little over a week ago, probably like 2 weeks by the time we tape this, called White Smoke. I almost said White Out. But it's called White Smoke. It's my debut horror. It's about a girl who moved into a renovated home with a newly blended family, and she believes the house is haunted, but maybe something far more sinister than that. I call it Get Out meets The Haunting of Hill House. And Then my next project after that is a picture book called Santa in the City, about a girl finding the magic of Christmas and how her community helped her believe in Santa, despite the fact that she lives in an apartment building. And it's kind of my Brooklyn memoir.
When does that come out?
November 2nd.
Oh, that's so exciting. Yay.
Black Santa for the win. My books come out next year. You know, the pandemic has like pushed things. So I have a book called Shattered Midnight that is now coming out January 18th because of COVID. Thanks, everyone. And then also that means I have so many books out next year. I have The Rumor Game, which is like a thriller about rumors in a high school next year. Oh God. And I have my middle grade debut, which Angie was talking about reading, called The Marvelers, that comes out next year. So a bitch is busy. I'm very excited.
I'm going to stand in for Nicola Yoon, who had a great book out this year called Instructions for Dancing that I love.
Absolutely.
My most recent release was a middle grade called Fast Pitch, and it is a Sandlot retelling about a softball team of little Black girls. It has been out probably 3 weeks. I think it's been out 3 weeks. But also, like, I don't know, Tiffany, maybe you feel this way too. Like, that was my 6th pandemic release. And like, I'm over it.
Over it, which
I have no juice left. Like, I'm like, I had a book come out. It's at Target.
Yeah, get your vaccine. We're trying to get out of this.
Right. Get vaccinated. Also buy my book if you can.
Look, go get your vaccine and buy the book. It's on the shelf.
Exactly. Do both. One is free.
Yeah.
Correct.
Actually, you have a book coming?
Yeah, so I just finished a series, Fly Girls. I don't have the last one, but like these are the first 2. But they're like,
wait, sorry, is that a magic shelf that you have right there?
Oh, it's one of those like floating shelves. So it just looks like the books are not really in a shelf. It just looks like a book stack.
Yeah, I love it.
So yeah, Fly Girls, the last one just came out at the end of August. It's 4 books and they're based on a made-up creative arts school.
I lost your audio for a minute, so can you just say that again?
Sorry. It's a school in Harlem, an arts school in Harlem, and each book follows one girl in this friend group. And yeah, it's just like, they're great for reluctant readers. And they're super quick. And obviously extremely short. So those are great for kids who might be intimidated by, thicker novels. And my first novel in verse is coming out next year in April, and it's called Nothing Burns as Bright as You.
Very exciting. Well, I can't wait to read all of these books that are coming, because I've read many of the ones that have come already. Except, sorry, Tiffany, for your book, I'm a real scaredy cat. I do not read horror. I appreciate everyone who loves it. I would have nightmares for weeks, but I'm real glad for your success.
I understand. No.
I mean, Jasmine, you write love. You're like,
right.
But this love over here, not trying to be scared.
Yeah.
Of course, like love completely scares me.
I know, me too. Like haunted house, but love. A love story is a haunted house. It's safe. It's like Freddy Krueger. That's love. I'm scared. Jasmine, what do you have next? Because
this summer, my 6th book, While We Were Dating, came out in July. And then next spring, I will have By the Book, which is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast by Disney. It's in the same, Julie Murphy's had the first story in that, hers was Cinderella, and so mine is Belle. And it comes next May. So
can't wait.
I think by the time this comes out, you will have seen the cover. So the cover reveal is soon. So yeah.
Super fan. Thank you so much for doing this.
Well, thank you all so much. This was Wonderful. I
Mm.
loved your book. I can't wait to see what the Obamas do with it.
I'll keep you
Wait,
posted.
hold on. Angie, you need to talk about Concrete Rose.
Yes,
It came
Angie.
out in January, didn't it?
Yes, it
Yeah,
did.
it came out in January.
She ignores my math. She really does. That's
Oh
my
no,
book.
I don't. I just got a whole lot going on.
Yeah.
So Concrete Rose came out in January. We start filming the film adaptation for On the Come Up in a few weeks in Atlanta. So I'm excited about
Come
that.
through.
Yeah.
I
I'm coming.
I'm working on a TV show. I can't talk a whole lot about it right now, but I'm getting to work with Issa Rae's company for that. So that should be talked about sooner than later. And I'm working on my first middle grade project.
It's
So,
really good, y'all.
Yay.
It's so exciting.
Well, I can't wait for all of this. Thank you all so much. This was a delight to talk to all of you. And everybody watching can buy Blackout and then any of the other books that we have talked about at the link below. I'm sure someone will point to it, but yeah, that's the book, Blackout. Yay. Everybody buy it, read it, love it. You'll love it. It's all about love.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.